I've taken the time to study the all-22 coaches film from the Buffalo Bills Week 11 win over the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm sharing my top takeaways with you today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Folks, welcome in. Bills 30, Kansas City 21. Heck of a way for the Buffalo Bills to enter their bye week at 9-2 and riding a 6-game win streak. Excited for what this team's going to look like coming out of the bye after they have the opportunity to not only get healthy, but to really assess the operation and advance it. Thinking about these weapons on offense, Kincaid and Coleman to go with Cooper and Shakir and Samuel's coming along, and Mac Hollins is an X factor, and the running backs are all doing a nice job, and the offensive line will get Spencer Brown back. I'm very excited about what this offense is going to be over the final 6 games, and surely the big play defense will continue to gel, and maybe that Matt Milano dude will come back real soon as well. So it just feels like there's a lot of great momentum for this football team. And boy, did I have fun studying the all-22 coaches film. We're going to break it down for you here today. My biggest takeaways on offense, defense. We'll do snap counts. We'll also cover my studs and duds here on this episode. But I do want to start offensively, where the Bills had a great day against the Kansas City Chiefs. Typically a very stout Chiefs defense that hasn't given up 30 points in 30 games. Second most total yards, passing yards, rushing yards, and first downs gained against Kansas City all season long. It was a good performance for the Bills on offense. And one of my favorite games that I've watched Josh Allen play. I think you felt it live, but after studying the tape, you really realize just how good he was in this game. I thought the key to the offensive game plan was the use of motion, and the use of motion and how it provides pre-snap indicators. It's not that the motion created leverage advantages or changed the formational strength that set up these crazy good plays for the Bills. It was using motion to get an understanding of what Kansas City was trying to do defensively, if they were in zone or if they were in man. And I think Josh's familiarity playing Kansas City, on top of using motion to get those pre-snap indicators, allowed Josh to consistently do the smart right thing with the football. You've heard me say that a bunch, and I thought this was a really good example of Josh Allen doing the smart right thing with the football, sometimes putting on the cape, but really just making really good decisions over and over and over again. He knew where to go. Processing speed was fast. Throws were mostly accurate, and the offense really, against a good Chiefs defense, fared well despite being shorthanded. Thought they did a good job of knowing who to attack on that Chiefs defense. And the obvious answer was always Najee Johnson. Najee Johnson's a 7th-round pick out of Marshall back in 2022. Didn't even play until this season, had played 176 snaps going into this game. Kansas City had some injuries at corner earlier in the season. This is who they're down to. And the Bills knew who to attack, and it was Najee Johnson. They targeted him 12 times. He gave up 9 catches for 103 yards and a touchdown. And both of the completions to Amari Cooper down the field were against Najee Johnson. That's a big part of being an effective offense, is knowing how to attack them. Who's the weak link out there? Oh, you're going to go man coverage with Amari Cooper? Okay. Yeah, we'll take that. Really good job. I thought this game for Josh Allen, his pocket movement was exceptional. Absolutely exceptional. And I thought the pass protection did pretty well in this game. According to the Fantasy Points data suite, Josh Allen only pressured on 17% of his dropbacks. That's very good. And it's not because Kansas City didn't blitz a ton. They did. But Josh Allen knew how to move within the pocket. And you can't overlook how important Ty Johnson has been to the Bills on third downs and generally when they're anticipating pressure. He's become the Bills' pass blocking back. And early in the season, I talked a lot about communication breakdowns with the Bills' pass protection. And it wasn't, I've said this, you probably heard me say this, it wasn't guys just getting beat by an opponent and giving up pressure. It was the scheme is failing. Ty Johnson has stabilized that in a big way. He played the most snaps of any running back on the team in this game, and that's a good decision. That doesn't mean that James Cook's not the feature ball carrier. But your best pass blocking back is Ty Johnson, and he's really emerging in that capacity. And Ray Davis even had one really good pass pro rep in this game. So as you consider how the Bills were able to handle the pressure looks from Kansas City, hat tip to Ty Johnson and a hat tip to Josh Allen and his pocket movement. Chris Jones was a problem in this game. You probably didn't really feel him watching the broadcast live, but you watched the tape and this guy was wrecking stuff. Josh Allen was able to avoid several near sacks from Chris Jones with his ability to move within the pocket, keep his eyes down the field, and either take off and create some yards or find a completion. Josh Allen managed this game from the pocket at an extremely high level. Extremely high level. So motion, pre-snap indicators, attacking Najee Johnson, Josh Allen's pocket movement skills, the contributions of the running backs, mostly Ty Johnson and pass pro, and then Josh just making great decisions and including doing some really special stuff as a runner and as a thrower. Want to comment on some of the muddy runs in this game? You could definitely get frustrated watching it and feeling like the Bills are running into a brick wall, and at times they were. The Chiefs have a really good front seven. They're very good at defending the run. I think they're good at defending the run at the expense of having good pass rushers, right? Chris Jones and George Karlaftis are good pass rushers, but I don't think they have anyone else that's really an impact pass rusher. It feels like they're all very stout, gap control type players. They're tough to run on. Nobody really has run on this team all year. And I think one of the misconceptions with this game, it certainly felt like it watching it, was that the Bills ran the ball every time on first down. They didn't. They passed it 43% on first down, and they ran at 57%. It still leans run, but it certainly wasn't the discrepancy that maybe you felt watching it live. I'll say this. I thought the running backs ran extremely hard. I thought they all made good decisions. There just wasn't much space to work with. All of them. Davis, Johnson, Cook. I think, Johnson and Davis got 5 carries each. I think James Cook had 9. I thought their decision-making and their effort was outstanding. There just wasn't a lot of space. I think they missed Spencer Brown running the ball. I think he's a big part of setting the tone, but also creating that displacement up front. But I will say this, both of James Cook's rushing touchdowns were awesome. The first one, there's really no space. The Bills are running to the right. There's no space. And James Cook has done this a few times with his goal line carries where he says, all right, there's nowhere to go. I'm just going to out-athlete the defense and be able to corner them and get in. And that's what he was able to do to the short side of the field. He was able to beat Drew Tranquill, the Chiefs linebacker, to the edge and scored. And the great block from Curtis Samuel as well. You can't overlook that. It was a great block to seal off Nas Johnson so that James Cook could score. The second one was really good as well, where the Bills had some doubles up front. Dawkins and Edwards double-teamed Chris Jones and actually did a very good job of pinning him inside and creating that lane. And then on the other side, you have McGovern and Torrance working together on a combo block that sealed Mike Pennell. That's their two best run defenders. Good job by Quentin Morris at the point of attack to keep that edge at bay. But James Cook sets up the cutback run so well, and he presses hard to his left, and that forces Nick Bolton to get out of his run fit. Cook cuts across the grain, and then he's met by some tacklers, three of them, at about the 3-yard line, and they don't come in with an honest effort, and James Cook runs right through them. Really good rushing touchdowns, both of them. Ben Stolak, I think, said it best on X. He said this was a boa constrictor win for the Buffalo Bills, where you kind of stick with it. There's a little bit of muddy runs along the way, but at the end when it matters, you score 2 touchdowns on your last 2 drives, and you put them away. And all of it was like micro deposits into what the overall objective was, and you slowly constrict them, and you win a football game. So those are some of my biggest takeaways on the offensive side of the football. On the other side of it, I want to have a little bit of a conversation on Ryan Vandemark and his first start in the NFL. We'll do offensive snap counts and then start our conversation on the defensive side of the football. Folks, be sure to stick with me. Pre-alcohol probiotic drink by Z-Biotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how to use it. Step 1, you drink pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol the first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly, pace yourself, hydrate, and get yourself a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On NFL at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place, so when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Let's talk a little Ryan Vandemark here. Obviously a big spot for him, filling in for Spencer Brown, who missed the game with an ankle injury. First NFL start. Has had 2 years with the Bills, right? Working with Aaron Cromer. Was the swing tackle all of last year, and has now assumed that job again with Tylen Grable injured. And it was a big moment for him. And I'll say this, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Ryan Vandemark was a dominant right tackle in this game, but I thought he reasonably met the moment. Going up against a really good Chiefs front that moved guys all around. He had reps one-on-one with Chris Jones. He had a lot of one-on-one reps with George Karlaftis, and it certainly wasn't perfect, but I thought Ryan Vandemark did a great job of knowing how to recover. And I think that speaks to the coaching that he's had. It wasn't always pretty. There were times where Karlaftis was able to get into his chest and start to compress the width of the pocket. There were times where, he had to redirect and maybe overset or underset. But he did a really good job of trusting his athleticism. Ryan Vandemark is an outstanding athlete with good length. Knew how to use that to his advantage when necessary, but then staying under control, knowing that, hey, I might be giving up some depth here, but if I can leverage my hips, I can get myself rooted in the ground and I can sit on my hips. I can anchor. I can drop that anchor and not allow any more compression. I thought he did a really good job of recovering when he wasn't able to initially win the rep. And I thought, all things considered, for him to be able to step in under those circumstances, he very reasonably met the moment. Offensive snap counts for the Bills in this one. 73 offensive snaps played. Josh Allen, 100%. At running back, Ty Johnson, 45%. James Cook, 37%. Ray Davis, 21%. Again, based on this being a pressure-heavy Chiefs defense, third highest blitz rate in the NFL entering this game. I think they blitzed 40% of the snaps. You had to lean into Ty Johnson, and he met the moment. At tight end, with no Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, 84%. Quentin Morris, 38%. Zach Davidson off the practice squad, 15%. I'll tell you, Zach Davidson was fun to watch on special teams. Really fun. The effort was outstanding. He was on punt return. He was on kickoff coverage, and the dude was flying around. I'll say that. He had a limited opportunity to play, but he played with maximum effort the entire time. It was fun to see. Alec Anderson, 8%. I think that with the injuries to the offensive line, the Bills were a little bit more reluctant to play Alec Anderson as a utility tight end, and I think they missed that. I think the combination of Anderson and Brown kind of being absent from your core run principles affected the Bills in this game. The wide receiver, again, no Keon Coleman. Khalil Shakir, 71%. Curtis Samuel, 60%. How fun is he? He's coming along. Honey hole shot against cover 2 for a big conversion. Had a big defensive pass interference called. Of course, a receiving touchdown. Curtis Samuel coming along nicely here. Mac Hollins, 56%. Just a nice little X factor. 2 big catches in the game. Draws a pass interference call. Just doing a lot of little things. And I'll say this about Mac Hollins that I've gained a lot of appreciation for watching him recently. The way that he applies himself on the for love of the game routes, right? There's no chance he's getting targeted. The only purpose he serves on that play is to run a route that's going to draw coverage and lift the roof so that someone else can get open. Mac Hollins gives maximum effort every single time. And there's no way I could say that about Gabe Davis. There's no way that I could say that about Trent Sherfield last year. I love him in that spot. Amari Cooper, 51%. You could tell probably still picking their spots with him. He's playing with a cast on his wrist. Jalen Virgil, 4%. Offensive line, Osiris Torrance, Ryan Vandemark, and Connor McGovern, 100%. David Edwards, 97%. Deion Dawkins, 96%. Richard Garage, 4%. Of course, Dawkins missed a couple of snaps there later in the game. So that's the offensive side of things. I want to get into the defense now, but before I do, I want to remind you, I launched a Substack right at the beginning of the season, and I'm writing articles there. I'm having so much fun writing 3 articles every single week, plus a film breakdown. So I give you, as a post, you'll see a video of me breaking down, I think I did 31 different plays from this particular game, where I show the film, the All-22, and I do voiceover commentary. It's over 40 minutes of me breaking down clips from this game. So all the stuff that I'm talking about, the motion, the Josh Allen pocket navigation, all of it, it's all in there for you to see. So if you'd like to be part of the Substack, there's a link in today's show notes that you can check it out and be part of it. You get, again, I'm writing at least 3 articles a week, plus the video post, and it gets you into our Discord channel. The Herd Mentality Discord channel is awesome. Over 1,300 Bills fans in there talking Bills, breaking things down, joking around. We do trivia night. I do a special Discord-only podcast on Wednesday nights for like over an hour, usually taking questions. So be part of what's going on there. We're building a lot of community around this podcast. Don't miss out. And the best way you can get involved is to become part of our Substack, get the additional content, get into our Discord, and really become part of what's going on there. We're having a lot of fun. Daily polls, we do trivia contests, so much going on. Check it out. Link in today's show notes to be part of it. All right, let's talk defense. And the number one thing that I want to talk about defensively right now is something that we need to bring some attention to. And this really, I guess I was watching the film and I noticed this, and it provoked me to do a little research. And the thought that I had watching the Bills on defense was, boy, they're tackling well. Tackling extremely well. And so I looked it up. I was like, all right, well, Pro Football Reference, they track missed tackles. How are they doing? Well, they're doing great. The Bills have the fourth fewest missed tackles in the NFL this season with 39. And what's impressive about that is the teams that are 1 and 2 have only played 10 games, while the Bills have played 11. So number 1 is the Dolphins at 31 missed tackles in 10 games. Number 2 is the Steelers with 37 missed tackles in 10 games. Then you have the Patriots with 37 missed tackles in 11 games, and the Bills 39 missed tackles in 11 games. This is a wonderful development. The Bills have typically not been a very good tackling defense. Last year, they were 19th in missed tackles, so 1 would be the fewest, 32 would be the most. They're 19th. In 2022, they were 23rd. In 2021, they were 23rd. In 2020, they were 27th. In 2019, they were 29th. In 2018, they were 31st. So it's been a slow build here, but I mean, this is clearly the best tackling defense yet under Sean McDermott. Right now, top 4. And after, the Bills have their bye week and all these other teams have the same amount of games, the Bills might be number 1. So I love the way that this defense is tackling. And again, just the thought that occurred to me, I'm watching the Bills make good tackle after good tackle. I was finally thought to myself, that's kind of weird. I normally see a lot of missed tackles. Now they're doing a great job of tackling. All right, on the other side of it, I want to get into how the Bills were able to confuse Patrick Mahomes, how they limited Travis Kelce, defensive snap counts, studs and duds. Plenty more to get to here today, folks. Be sure to stick with me. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Every month, pay your rent and watch the Built points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points towards a flight or a hotel stay with over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties. You can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them towards future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free through Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built points have consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure you use our URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL to start earning points with your rent payments today. Really satisfied with how the Buffalo Bills were able to defend Patrick Mahomes in this game. Patrick Mahomes is a great player, and he didn't have a great game against Buffalo. So why? How did they do that? Well, first of all, they got a lot of pressure on him. That's the best way. You want to make a quarterback worse? Pressure him. Bills pressured Patrick Mahomes on 37% of dropbacks. 37%. That's healthy, folks. According to Next Gen Stats, Patrick Mahomes threw into a tight window on 18% of his passing attempts. That's the highest rate all season long. So pressure plus tight coverage. Patrick Mahomes' average time to throw in this game, 3.35 seconds, by far his longest amount of time that he held onto the ball in a game this season. The Bills confused Patrick Mahomes. And I thought early on in the game, the cage rush was phenomenal. You know, you can't just rush Patrick Mahomes like he's Joe Flacco. You can't rush him that way. Too good with pocket movement skills, too good at avoiding pressure. You have to compress the pocket around him. You have to be disciplined with your rush lanes and compress the pocket around him. He thrives at finding space and getting to off-platform throws and switching up his arm angles and making throws. You have to take the air out of it. The Bills early in the game, I thought, did a phenomenal job of that. And then they also did a really good job of incorporating a spy. And not necessarily a spy in the sense that you would spy Lamar Jackson, but a spy that was mostly designed to give you margin for error with your cage rush. It's hard to be perfect with your rush lanes all the time, right? It's very difficult. With the spy, it gave the Bills front just a little more liberty, and that spy mostly just mirrored, right? Kind of played peekaboo with Patrick Mahomes. He wants to step up and climb, stay in front of him. And you saw that work out not only to bottle up Patrick Mahomes, but it came on the Terrell Bernard sack, sort of that, but also not making escape outlets available to him. So even when he wanted to step up, it's like, oh, there's a guy waiting for me. And the Bills are able to really affect Patrick Mahomes and take away from how usually effective he is. And then I thought that Bobby Babich, phenomenal job of mixing coverages. I thought this is the best game yet for him mixing coverages. Played a lot of man, 29% man coverage in this game. That's not a normal amount for the Bills. They were under 20% in weeks 1 through 10. 19% was the man coverage rate. They go up to almost 30% against Kansas City. They ran a ton of cover one, 25% cover one. Weeks 1 through 10, they were 13% cover one. Using Taylor Rapp as a one high safety and playing a lot of man coverage underneath, and the Bills were sticky in coverage. So you take that. You're still, of course, doing your normal zone. They ran a lot of cover 6 as well in this game. You're showing those blended coverages with good cage rush, with the spy over top on a lot of snaps. And I think that's how you get this formula of high average time to throw, lots of tight window throws, 2 interceptions, consistent pressure. It was just a great job. Bobby Babich had the right plan for sure in this game. How did the Bills, stop Travis Kelce 2 catches for 8 yards on 4 targets? I think you give a hat tip to Terrell Bernard on this one. Sometimes Terrell Bernard stayed in to spy, but there was a lot of times where he was the one that was capping over top of Travis Kelce. And I've said this before, Travis Kelce's not a very traditional player. He's a freelancer, right? Doesn't necessarily run in a lot of normal routes. He just finds space. Well, when your quarterback isn't processing quickly, you're cage rushing and you're mixing up your coverages, not as easy for that guy to just find space. Not to mention Terrell Bernard's a great player in coverage. Bills had the right stuff for Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce in this one. Defensive snap counts. The Bills ran 55 defensive snaps. Greg Rousseau, 80%. A.J. Epinesa, 62%. Von Miller, 38%. He had a good game. Very effective pass rush and a couple of good run reps as well. Casey Tuhill plays 30%. Defensive tackle, Ed Oliver, 71%. Daquan Jones, 56%. Jordan Phillips, 29%. Austin Johnson, 24%. Quentin Jefferson, 4%. Only 2 snaps for him. At linebacker, Terrell Bernard, 100%. Dorian Williams, 96%. At corner, Johnson, Benford, Douglas, 100%. At safety, Hamlin and Rapp, 100%. Cam Lewis, 18%. Really good job for Cam Lewis in this game. Played 10 snaps, 18% overall, but where he needs to be, made a couple of impact tackles, Terrell Bernard had that crazy interception at the end of the game. Cam Lewis, a couple of plays before, almost had his own game-ender interception. So a big tackle for loss in this game as well. Had Cam Lewis with a big tackle on Travis Kelce. It was like a 3rd and 10. They dumped it down to Travis Kelce. And Cam Lewis came from pretty good depth to come down and make that tackle. And if he doesn't make that tackle, they probably convert that 3rd down. So big hat tip to Cam Lewis for maximizing his opportunities. Studs and duds. Lots of studs, only 1 dud. Studs, Josh Allen, obvious. Sean McDermott, thought he coached a heck of a game. I know obviously that you're going to get hung up on that challenge, but had the right stuff and going for it on that 4th and 2. It's huge, right? You've seen this movie. You kick the field goal, you go up by 6, You give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, they have a game-winning drive, you lose. Didn't allow that to happen. 4th and 2, Josh Allen gets 26 yards. Play of the year. Bobby Babich. Andy Reid didn't outcoach him, I'll tell you that. Not this time. First head-to-head matchup, Bobby Babich had the stuff. Khalil Shakir, stud. Curtis Samuel, stud. Amari Cooper, stud. Both of his long catches down the field set up Buffalo Bills touchdowns. James Cook, those 2 rushing touchdowns were huge. Huge. I know it wasn't a high volume game. 5 catches for 7 yards, pretty uninspiring, but those 2 rushing touchdowns mattered, and I'm not going to overlook that. Ryan Vandemark wasn't a dominant football player, but he came in and reasonably at the moment, I think he deserves to be called a stud. Terrell Bernard, absolute stud. Absolute stud. Huge for the communication and for the Bills to run a very complex defensive scheme in this game that broke a lot of their own tendencies. Greg Rousseau, stud. You watch the Bills defensive line, that's the best player. It's not close. Tons of disruption, tons of collapsing the pocket, really good run defense. Ed Oliver, stud. I thought he was really active in this game, was an absolute menace on the inside against 3 elite blockers in Tooney, Humphrey, and Smith. Ed Oliver, a clear stud for me. Christian Benford, a stud. Bills were able to run a lot of man coverage because Christian Benford could lock up DeAndre Hopkins. Von Miller, stud. Big sack in this game. Close on a couple more. Good run defense reps, even though there weren't many. And then Brandon Codrington, I thought he did a really good job in the return game. Really maximized the Bills' opportunities for Josh Allen with what Brandon Codrington did, particularly as a punt returner. The one dud that I have is Daquan Jones. It's just it's hard to reconcile him this year. He's just not been very effective. And I think comfortably in this game, Jordan Phillips and Austin Johnson were better than him. And I respect the Chiefs' interior offensive line, but there was a difference between the challenges that Oliver, well, I don't see Oliver had any challenge. That the challenges that Phillips and Johnson had compared to Jones. I mean, Jones is just getting twisted up and out of his fits. He's got to play better. He's got to play better. And that's disappointing because that was like the guy everybody, myself included, wanted to re-sign him and bring him back. You're kind of embracing a youth movement, but the one guy you made the exception for was Daquan Jones. He hadn't been good. And I thought this was a pretty disappointing performance by him, especially when I'm watching Jordan Phillips be more stout against the run than Daquan Jones. So hopefully that changes quick, but it's been disappointing, and I can't overlook it. I didn't want to have any duds this week, but I had to do it. All right, folks, there you have it. All 22 review in the books. Bills, Chiefs, week 11. Bye week on tap here. We'll do herd mentality next. And then, like I said, later in the week, I have some guests lined up. We got some self-scouting to do. Plenty of content throughout this bye week and all year long here on Locked On Bills. So don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. I'd love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.